Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what the Paleolithic dieters get right and what they get wrong. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. You know what? The entire idea of a Paleolithic diet actually isn't bad. The way it's practiced today is absurd. It's absolutely ludicrous, and nothing more than a gimmick to sell books. And sometimes products, ironically, going to sell products because it resembles what Paleolithic man scavenged in the wild. But, you know, that aside, the idea isn't bad. You know what the basic idea is? We should probably eat a somewhat natural diet. Somewhat natural, in the sense of, you know what, we should probably eat more wild game, more free-range grass-fed animals instead of factory farmed. You know, that's a pretty good idea. How about another thing? We should eat more vegetables. Yeah, lean proteins, wild game, vegetables. You know, we should all probably eat a little more of that stuff and a lot less of this refined garbage that we eat. You know what? If they stuck there with it, that would be pretty damn good. It would be good enough that I think the vast majority of registered dietitians would get on board with those statements. And they'd be like, yeah, you know, that's pretty good. You guys are right. The problems we run into is number one, they think that they have evidence that Paleolithic people somehow were healthier or outlived people in agricultural societies that have access to good nutrition, not starvation. That's kind of flawed. Number two, this idea that grains are bad, that grains are actually the cause of all of our health problems, and that's clearly not the case when you look at epidemiology. Clearly not the case. And number three, that Paleolithic man didn't even eat grains. You know, and here's the thing, guys. These people don't actually even know what a Paleolithic diet was because it varied all around the world. A Paleolithic diet varied tremendously depending on where we lived. But that's the thing. Humans are the most diverse species on the face of the earth regarding how much of a different nutrition profile we can have, how much of a different diet we can have and still thrive. We're the most adaptable species that we know of in terms of diet. And a large part of that is due to our tools, due to our cooking, everything else. That's a tremendous part of it. But, you know, they come up with these crazy ideas like Paleolithic men and women didn't eat grains. Yet every single fossil we find with an intact GI tract in it, what do we find consistently? Grains. We find grains in their stomach and their gut. Every single time. We go back and we find fossils going back before the agrarian age, and what do we find? Tools with grains stuck in them, little sickles and stuff they used to harvest grains even when grains were just out wild. Paleolithic man ate grains whenever they could get them. Furthermore, where are they getting this idea that grains cause our health problems? We know what foods kill us. We know what foods are killing us. The data is pretty clear. You know what it is? It's refined sugars. I mean, do they really want to claim that grains, that rice and barley and wheat are more dangerous than a bunch of table sugar and high fructose corn syrup? We know refined sugars are contributing enormously to our health problems. Right? That isn't even debated anymore. We know that contributes. The evidence is overwhelming. How about excessive saturated fat? Where are we getting the saturated fat? Well, from fattening up animals on grains. And that's almost like that's where they get the idea. Well, if it makes the cows fat and unhealthy, no, it's because cows and a lot of other animals convert carbohydrates into fat really, really easily through de novo lipogenesis. Human beings do not. It's an enormous difference. Most human societies that follow the highest carbohydrate diets are usually the leanest. That's generally the case. Diets that are comprised of mostly carbs around the world, those societies tend to have the least body fat. They also tend to be pretty healthy. We know that animals like cows, certain animals, and the cows are one of them, and most of our food animals, when they're fed carbohydrates, they store it as body fat easily. They convert it much, much more efficiently and effectively than we do to body fat. Humans don't really store carbohydrates as fat. It's been studied. We know it's relatively rare for it to happen. With animals, it's like that. It's normal. Like with cows, bovines, rats, mice, it's normal. So yeah, we're causing problems by grain feeding out these cows to excess and making them fat and giving them tons of saturated fat. We know excessive amounts of saturated fat harms health. That doesn't mean saturated fat harms health. There's a difference. All right, let's go back into that other term, excessive. Anything in excess can harm you, even water, right? Water intoxication, swelling of the brain, it kills you. You can drink enough water to die. You can also eat enough saturated fat for it to cause heart disease. It takes a fair amount to do it, and historically we just haven't had access to enough of it for it to be a problem. Our bodies learn to deal with it. That's the thing. The human body deals with the things in our diets that cause problems in the amount that we were able to find them. Meaning, all throughout history, it's been too difficult for us to find enough fructose for fructose to cause metabolic issues, for it to cause fatty liver, for it to cause insulin resistance. It just wasn't enough of it available till we started refining and milling sugar for it to do so. Our body handles it in a certain amount. Our bodies are set up to, because after thousands and tens of thousands of years, if not hundreds of thousands of years of the fructose we had, we learned to process it okay. It is a toxin to some extent, like alcohol is. Our liver has to process it. Saturated fat's the same way. We only got saturated fat in any significant quantity when we made a big kill of a big animal. And then sometimes we'd go a week or two without eating it again. We'd gorge on it when we could find it, but that's okay because we didn't get that much of it. We handled it okay. Our body didn't really have to ever deal with an overload of it. All right, but saturated fat in excess is harmful, and that's where people mess up. They hear that anything in excess is harmful, so zero must be good. It means zero is good. It doesn't mean that there's any negative health effects to moderation on these things. No proof of that at all, but people get these extreme ideas. But saturated fat, how about vegetable oils? Again, another highly refined food. We know that cooking in vegetable oils, heating up vegetable oils and cooking in them harms health. All right, we know that doing that in any significant degree, I mean, once a week, fine, maybe twice a week is fine. Doing it regularly, 3, 4, 5, 10 times a week, yeah, it harms your health. These are the foods that we know that harm us. You know, and if they had just gone back to the other idea, we should probably avoid refined shit. Not avoid it, but at least moderate it, count it as foods for special occasions, not something we eat every day. Now, if we took that approach to big sources of saturated fat, foods fried in vegetable oils, cooked in vegetable oils, depending on the term, what country you live in and what version of the word you use, so cooking in them at all with heat, and refined sugars. And even honey could fall into there to some extent. You could eat enough honey, in theory, to contribute. But excessive fructose intake, all right? If they limited it to that, they'd be dead on. Just get rid of all this refined shit. Eat it in moderation. Eat it on special occasions. You know, have it once a week, not every day. All right, they would be right, but they don't. Then they jump over into trying to figure out whether almonds are paleo or not. I mean, the fucking stupidity of that, when they don't even eat a paleo diet anyways. Broccoli's not paleo. It's one of the healthiest foods in the world. It's a purely selectively bred agricultural food. Broccoli's not found in nature. It's a superfood. We've bred it to be super nutrient dense. Just like we've bred a lot of other foods. Agriculture improved our nutrition. Grains improve our nutrition. And people who don't understand that look at different societies around the world. The longest lived, healthiest cultures in the world, if we use epidemiology, eat large amounts of grains. Sometimes refined grains. For people who are physically active and don't eat a bunch of highly refined shit that's other than grains, you know, grains that have just been through a milling process, as long as they don't eat a bunch of table sugar and saturated fat with it, guess what happens? White rice doesn't seem to cause health problems. Chinese men working out in the rice fields their whole life don't die till they're 90 years old. Eating white rice for 70% of their calories every day for 90 years. Grains are not the problem. It's all this other shit. It's all this other shit. But, you know, they get this weird idea that they want to somehow go back to some natural diet, but they don't follow it. You know where Paleolithic man got most of their meat from? Eating insects. You eat bugs every day. They only got access to like red meat once a week when they made a big kill. They gorged on 3 pounds of it and they didn't have any for a week or two. Right? Anyone following a paleo diet eat like that? Eat insects every day, red meat once every week or two, and as much of it as you can choke down without puking. That would be a little closer to a paleo diet. Only eat wild game, nothing that's ever been grain fed. Then eat whatever wild type grains you could find. Eat them all through your diet. Tubers, lots of potatoes, roots, so that would be potatoes, carrots, onions. Whatever you could dig up out of the ground. Lots of grub worms, lots of ants, lots of beetles. That's what Paleolithic people ate. That's how they ate. And they did eat grains. Every time they found grains, they ate them. People following these paleo diets don't eat like that. They need to drop the name paleo, because the Paleolithic man lived on grains and bugs and tubers. If you're not chowing down on bugs and eating beetles by the handful, you're not following a paleo diet. But the whole idea is, again, to try to eat a natural, healthy diet. But they don't. They avoid some of the healthiest foods, because they have this misplaced idea that grains are somehow the cause of these problems, when they aren't. They don't appear to be at all. And by that same token, people can't even claim, oh, it's just Asian people aren't predisposed to those issues. Really, Asian people don't have heart attacks and get obese? Put them on McDonald's and watch how fast it happens. It happens here in America. Chinese people over here don't live to be 90. When you put them on McDonald's diet, guess what? It's all the fried food and the processed sugar in it. They get obese, they get diabetes, they have heart attacks just like everyone else. But you put them on a diet of white rice and a little bit of fish and a little bit of pork and some seaweed, they live to be 90, and they don't have heart attacks till they're 90. Again, grains, even white rice, even refined grains, not the problem. It's all this other stuff. Paleo people just aren't willing to actually look at the science. All they want to do is read stuff by Rob Wolf and other people who are selling books and making millions of dollars, but who actually aren't even studying the nutrition. So there's the problem with the paleo diet. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.